So today I'm going to be talking about something, and the reason why I'm going to talk about this topic is it's something that people are always talking about. I watched a video from Rachel Demita, and she was giving her opinion on it, um, with Caitlin Clark, and I agree to an extent, and I don't agree to an extent. But I want to talk about the fact that no matter what way you want to play Caitlin Clark, whether you want to play her like Steph, whether you want to play her like Steve Nash, whether you want to play her like Tyrese Halliburton, you need to have the right pieces around her. And the fact is, it sounds like Steph White wants Caitlin Clark to be Stephen Curry. But like, could you imagine? But Stephen Curry wouldn't be Stephen Curry if you surrounded Stephen Curry with Monte Ellis, um, Michael Porter Jr. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, just offensively. Monte Ellis, Michael Porter Jr. Let's just say Draymond anyway with Aaliyah Boston, and um, who's a non-shooting athletic, the freaking Manimal, the Manimal. Imagine putting Kenneth Faried in there, and you might be saying, "What am I talking about, Kenneth Faried? Like he's out of the league." I'm like, yeah, that is the Natasha Howard archetype, which does not exist anymore in the NBA. And if you guys agree with this, subscribe. We are fighting. We're fighting to not drop below under 53 point or 57.3k. We hit that in the last 28 days. We have gained 27 subscribers. We have been hovering. We've been hovering. We lost 8 subscribers today. Can we get back to a gain of a subscriber today? That'd be greatly appreciated. But anyway, we got to talk about it. We have got to talk about this right here, and it's the roster construction, and it is the way the team wants to play. There is no scenario where the Indiana Fever can play Caitlin Clark like she is Stephen Curry with Kelsey Mitchell on the team. That does not, like, it doesn't get the best out. Like, Kelsey Mitchell becomes an afterthought because Kelsey Mitchell, it's not that she can't cut. She's an exceptional cutter, but she's a backdoor cut to the basket player rather than a Klay Thompson who's like a move and relocate. Caitlin Clark's doesn't really move like that, and that's not really something that can be taught that much. It's hard to teach feel off the ball, and I think it's Caitlin. I think Caitlin. We saw it at Iowa. I think she can run off a lot of screens. She can run off certain actions. What I don't feel like is that Caitlin Clark is this elite off the ball player. I still feel like she's someone who excels on the ball and kind of, not that she's not a quick decision maker, but works better when she kind of is able to take those extra 2 or 3 dribbles, when she's able to scan the floor, when she's able to create the advantage. And then her off the ball gravity creates 4v4s, obviously. But I do think her on the ball gravity is significantly better than her off the ball gravity, and she's very good at thinking 1 to 2 steps ahead. Like, I think she's more of a Nash than a Curry. And I think she's much more of a Steve Nash than a Steph Curry. But if you want to run her with Steph Curry, there are exactly 2 players on the roster, not in the starting lineup, on the roster that can play like that. I genuinely mean that. There are 2 players on the roster. If you're dead set on keeping Caitlin Clark, the only players on the roster that could play in a Warriors type system are Aaliyah Boston and Sophie Cunningham. And I don't even know if Caitlin can. But I think you're going to have one player that kind of does a little bit differently on the roster. If the Indiana Fever are dead set on running a Warrior style motion offense, you pick one of Kelsey Mitchell or Caitlin Clark. There are offenses that can run both of them, but it involves the Christie Sides post Olympics offense of there being a clear hierarchy of Caitlin gets the ball. Caitlin is the first option. Whatever action it is for Caitlin. She is the first option in 80% of actions. The second option, if Caitlin can't get open, it goes into a pick and roll or pick and short roll just because of how well they read off each other. And then let Caitlin make the read. If they double Caitlin, she can hit Aaliyah. Aaliyah gets that short pop shot. If they recover onto Aaliyah, you've got the Kelsey Mitchell cut, then you've got Lexi in the corner. Lexi Hull does not pass the basketball. Lexi Hull does not pass the basketball. She doesn't. And like there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. She stands in the corner, she shoots open jump shots. I would be concerned if Lexi Hull, with the position that she's in, if she passed the ball more. She's not a good passer. Kelsey Mitchell is a reluctant passer. And even if she's not a reluctant passer, she's a north-south passer. You need east-west passers, players to swing the ball in a motion offense. And Caitlin's not that either. Caitlin's a north-south passer. Caitlin is able to kick the ball to the corner. But how many times does the ball get swung to Caitlin Clark and she make an extra swing pass? Or does the ball get swung and she swings it back through the middle? Because the Indiana Fever, they don't, unless it's Sophie Cunningham or Aaliyah Boston, the ball doesn't reverse. Like, Steph White can say all she wants, these players reverse it. Odyssey Sims doesn't reverse the ball. Ari McDonald doesn't reverse the ball. Caitlin Clark doesn't reverse the ball. Lexi Hull doesn't reverse the ball. Kelsey Mitchell doesn't reverse the ball. We have an entire team of players that look downhill. It is a team that got into the playoff, got into where they were because of the power of friendship, not because of any good things tactically. Like the Indiana Fever literally got to one game from the finals because of heart. It was nothing to do with the tactics. It was nothing to do with the play style. It was nothing to do with the talent, because they didn't have as much talent either. It was all heart. All heart. And we're coming into next season where I don't feel like you can rely on heart. I feel like if you're relying on heart, you're already screwed. You can't win a title on heart. You just can't. And it feels like they're going to double down on a motion offense, which doesn't work. People are like, oh yeah, the Indiana Fever, they never really got an opportunity to run it because of all the injuries. That's why the Indiana Fever were good, by the way. The Indiana Fever stunk when they tried to run it. They did. It's one of those things where it's like, I liken it to Jesse Marsh for Leeds. Jesse Marsh had this system that he really wanted to run. He took over for Leeds during the 2021-2022 season, about halfway through. We were in a relegation battle. And he literally was like, I don't have enough time to put in my system, so I'm just going to try keep this team up and win games. And he kept us up, did a good job. The next season, he spent $100 million on players, had a team on paper that was meant to be great, put in his system, and his system was garbage. It was complete garbage. And then he lost because he put in we got relegated because of his system. He was actually a good adapting manager. Then he put in his system and we were shit. And that's the thing I'm scared about with Stephanie White. When the Indiana Fever winged it, when we winged it, we look good. As in when Caitlin just said, fuck this, we're running. Or when the playoffs, when Stephanie White's like, we actually couldn't really put in anything. Like, she's saying, we couldn't actually play to our full potential because when everyone was coming in and out of injuries, when everything was coming in and out, or was people coming in and out of squad with injuries, we couldn't really put in anything. That's why we got better. Every time we signed a new hardship player, we got a jump. Why? Because we stopped doing the bullshit. We stopped doing the bullshit as a team. That's a fact. And the problem is if you want to run Caitlin Clark like Steph Curry, which Steph White wants to do, but you've put a whole bunch of offense stops here, you've put a bunch of ball stoppers, and to an extent, Caitlin Clark's a ball stopper as well. So I'm not even going to complain about that, but you can't have a ball stopper beside Caitlin Clark. Like, when Caitlin passes the ball, it doesn't come back to her. When Steph passes the ball, he's able to relocate and he knows he gets open. That's the problem. We saw it with Christy Size. The only time Caitlin ever got the ball back for a three-point shot was when they ran a quick hitter. Because we don't have the right players. Like, if you watch the way the Liberty play, we don't have the players. We don't have the personnel to do that. And the Fever are not going to get rid of 80% of their team. They're not going to get rid of Lexi Hull. Which, if we're being completely honest, if you want to play Warriors Steph Curry type offense, you get rid of Lexi Hull. You don't keep her. And in my opinion, that's dumb. That's dumb. You don't not keep Lexi Hull because of the little things that she can do. Not even the little things, just the defensive plays that she makes. If you want to run that offense, Natasha Howard cannot be Like, you need to put a restraining order on Natasha Howard because she is the literal worst power forward, starter or bench for that system. The literal worst one for that system that you want to run. And by the way, Natasha Howard, if the Indiana Fever run it back with Natasha Howard, they're not winning a championship. They're not winning a championship. If the Indiana Fever run it back, and this is the scariest thing about all this, is that when people are saying they're more dangerous without Caitlin Clark, they're not. We saw when Caitlin, they were trying to figure it out, and Caitlin just took off running. When she got into an altercation with Steph White at halftime, and they changed how they played for those 2.5 games, and they went 1-3 straight. Caitlin was on one leg, but it's the style of play, it's the system that nobody can guard. Steph White doesn't want to play that system. It's very clear. She wants to play some sort of Steph Curry type system with Caitlin Clark. And my response to that is, okay, but then you better get players to help that. You better get players. And I'm sorry, if that is your goal, and by the way, I want the Fever to keep Kelsey Mitchell. I want the Indiana Fever to keep Kelsey Mitchell and go back to a post-Olympic break 2024 system. That's what I am. That's genuinely what I want the team to do. But they're not going to do that. If you want to run a motion offense, you pick one of Kelsey Mitchell or Caitlin Clark. Like, Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark can work together, and in fact, they complement each other. But the way Steph White clearly wants to play and is talking about playing and the people she's going to ask about, instead of going to the real person who you should be asking about Caitlin Clark, in Mike D'Antoni, you're going to Steve Kerr and getting a player who's not even remotely close in style. Steph Curry does not play anything like Caitlin Clark. Like, it's not even remotely, they don't play remotely close to each other. Caitlin Clark is like a much taller version of Trae Young. She's Steve Nash. She's Tyrese Halliburton. And you're trying to turn her into something that she's just not. There's only one Steph Curry. There's only one Steph Curry. And there's only one Caitlin Clark. If you try to turn Caitlin Clark into something she's not, it's not going to work. And if you're going to try to turn Caitlin Clark into something she's not, you better at least give her a chance by putting the pieces around her that will allow her to do that. If you are expecting to be Caitlin Clark to be Steph Curry, and you surround Caitlin Clark with Aaliyah Boston and 3 the offense stops here type players, and a bench of the offense stops here type players who look vertically, in your Ari, you bring in Ari, who clearly doesn't even look to give the ball to anyone other than the bigs. Ari McDonald looks straight down into the bigs. That's what Ari is as a passer, and there's nothing wrong with that. Plenty of point guards are vertical passers. Caitlin Clark's a vertical passer. Caitlin Clark's she is not someone who swings the rock. Paige Bueckers is someone who swings the rock. If you are dead set on this offense, as I've said plenty of times, based on everything we've heard Stephanie White say, a trading Caitlin for Paige would improve both teams. Like, Caitlin Clark trying to turn Caitlin Clark into Timu Paige, just trade for Paige. It's as simple as that. If you want Caitlin to be Paige, if you want to play like UConn, go sign a bunch of UConn players. Go trade Caitlin for Paige and sign a bunch of UConn players. Go trade Caitlin for Paige and the draft pick and bring in AZ and sign a whole bunch of UConn players. If that is actually the way you want to play. But like, I don't know. I just don't know. Everything I'm hearing, and the reason why I'm talking about this is obviously the Rachel Mead video where she was talking about like utilizing her like Steph Curry. And one really good point she made is that the Warriors were like, you need to be shooting more threes. And you've seen Stephanie White being like, well, maybe that's not a good shot in this scenario. But it's a different thing where it's like, there is, like, you've looked at a player who is a risk taker who's being told not to take risks. And it's very, very clear, that there is a coach that's trying to mold Caitlin. And by the way, it could be for better. We've yet to see if what Steph White's doing with, like, what Steph White wants to do with Caitlin Clark is for the better. Like, we haven't seen enough. There is not a big enough sample size to say whether it's for the better or the worse. We can predict. I predict it's not going to work out well. And I predict that she's gone at the end of next season. I predict the Indiana Fever are going to struggle compared to expectations. They're going to come into next season as one of the 3 favorites next year. I can see them hovering around 500 again. I can. Like, I can see them making some real bad off-season moves. My prediction is that they trade the 10th pick. I don't see them using that 10th pick. Another prediction is that Natasha Howard is still the starting power forward. Lexi Hull is still the starting small forward. Kelsey Mitchell is still the starting shooting guard. Caitlin Clark's at the 1 and Aaliyah Boston's at the 5. That is not a lineup that works together. It isn't. Against bad teams, sure. Against good teams, that lineup does not work together. That specific lineup, I'm not joking, is better with Ari McDonald at point guard. But if you take out Natasha Howard and replace her with anybody else, that lineup works. Natasha Howard, Aaliyah, Caitlin, Kelsey, those 4 together don't work. Lexi just stands in the corner. So, like, it doesn't really matter that much with her. But it's one of those things now where the league or the league is going to get better. It's getting better every year. And the Indiana Fever are so close fit-wise into making a championship winning team. I'm just scared they're not going to. And I'm scared they're going to force a system that doesn't work for their players. Because again, we don't know if the motion offense will work with Caitlin Clark. But I'm telling you for a fact that Caitlin Clark with a bunch of the offense stops here type players minus Aaliyah Boston, it's not going to work. I can tell you that for a fact. It's not going to work. It's going to make Caitlin look bad. It's going to make them look bad. And the Indiana Fever, it's going to make Aaliyah look bad. And the Indiana Fever are going to start scoring off accidental basketball because Caitlin Clark's going to pass the ball to the wing. It's not going to go back to Caitlin Clark. And then we're going to see Kelsey Mitchell start doing her Julian Newman impression again. Kelsey's going to be worse. Caitlin's going to be worse. Aaliyah's going to be worse. That system suits, whether it suits all of them, it doesn't suit all of them together. And that's what I'm scared about. I'm scared that Steph White wanted to run what they ran with Alyssa Thomas. But they don't have Alyssa Thomas. I'm really, really scared. I'm really scared about what the Fever are going to do. The Sophie interview has spooked me. The Sophie podcast has spooked me. Because Sophie Cunningham is possibly one of the most underappreciated players in the league. Just because she is a rare horizontal passer, versatile Swiss Army knife type player. This is a league this league's 15 years behind. This is a league that still prioritizes 3 and no D players and D and no 3 players. This is a league that gave Dejanay Carrington a max contract despite the fact she can't shoot the ball. This is a league that gave Katie Lou Samuelson a max contract despite the fact she can't guard a parked car. This is a league full of specialists. And the Indiana Fever have one of the versatile players. The Indiana Fever have one of the most versatile centers in the game. The Indiana Fever have one of the most versatile wings in the game, is Sophie Cunningham. And the fact is like, you have to, because Caitlin Clark's not one-dimensional, but it's very clear with Caitlin that what she's good at, she's the best in the world at. But there are a lot of flaws to her game. She's not this perfect player. She's not this jack-of-all-trades, versatile LeBron-type player. No, she does what she does better than everyone. Like, she's the modern-day Magic Johnson. That is what she is. She is like, with modern ball, with the research, or like the emergence of the 3-ball, the deep 3-ball. She is the modern-day equivalent of Magic Johnson. And like, people are talking about Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson couldn't guard a parked car either. But she is the modern-day version of Showtime. She's the modern-day version of Magic Johnson. And you have to surround her with pieces that fit. And I do believe Kelsey Mitchell fits. I do believe Lexi Hull fits. But the problem is I don't know if all of those pieces, plus the current coach they have and the system the current coach wants to run, and we've seen when they were healthy for a few games that their offense got worse every game they played. We saw through the first 4 or 5 games, the Fever's offense consistently get worse. And even before Caitlin's first injury, we saw their offense we saw them getting worse every single game. And then we saw towards the end of the year how bad they were. And then they started getting all these hardship players in, and then they started winging it. They literally winged it. Steph White was like, oh, we actually couldn't put in any actions because we had so many new players. And ironically, that was the best thing for them, was that they could put in all these actions because they were in fact better just winging it. They were better winging it and playing with heart than playing in a system that doesn't fit them. Like, it's better to play pickup ball than to play a system that doesn't fit the team. But there is a very clear blueprint for what they need to do. The best Indiana Fever have ever been was post-Olympic break 2024. And they have gone to that system for a game and a half. Dallas, second half against Atlanta. How many points did they score in those 3 quarters? Like 160. Sorry, those 3 halves. Like 160. I'm not joking. Like 160 points. It is unguardable. The problem is I don't think she wants to do it. I don't think she does. And that's, for me, what the problem is that I don't dislike any of these players as players. Like, we've seen the core 4 fit extremely well together. But that was playing a system that fit each of their games. Lexi Hull as this kind of last resort corner sitter. Kelsey Mitchell as an off-the-ball cutter, off-the-ball relocator and transition player. And Leah Boston as a secondary offensive hub and pick and roll player, pick and pop player, pick and short roll. Because she's smart off that, whichever one she does. And Caitlin Clark just being the head of the snake. We've seen a system work with the 4 of those players. The problem was Nalissa Smith, which is why they were so much better with Temi, who was a good cutter and runner, or Dantas, who at least shot the ball well last 2 seasons ago in 2024. Whereas if you come into this season, you have Natasha Howard in there. And by the way, when it really worked against Atlanta, who was on the floor? Dantas. Who wasn't on the floor? Kelsey Mitchell. Against Dallas. So, no, against Atlanta. Kelsey Mitchell was not on the floor. If you look at the 2 best games the Indiana Fever played, ironically, the Atlanta Dream second half and the Mercury regular season game. The Mercury regular season game, down the stretch, they were playing with actually playing Chloe Bibby at the 4, which is her real position, and then suddenly they sign her full time and she starts playing the 5, and she starts playing the 5, or say she starts playing the 3, and she's not a 3 and gets burned and they bench her. But it's like, it was Chloe at the 4, Aaliyah at the 5, Sophie, Lexi, Ari. Spread out on Ari. Like, there's so many ways this team can play that can fit the personnel. The problem is that you've got a whole bunch of players that don't fit a Warriors motion type offense, and you've got a coach who wants to play that. Like, there's a reason why. If you look, say, at the Minnesota Lynx, there are so many connective pieces, connective passers that look good on the Lynx that didn't really look great anywhere else. There are players as well that maybe the Lynx in their new style of play didn't really suit, that I know will do well in other places. Maybe they didn't suit the Lynx. Same with all college ball, honestly. You see some of that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, look, this is a real kind of rambling video. But I'm seeing more and more about just the way people saying that Steph or she should be used like Steph Curry. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to work. And I don't think it's a Caitlin problem. I think it's a Fever roster construction problem. But I also don't think that's the best thing for her. Like, for everyone saying, oh, Steve Nash never won, it's not Steve Nash's fault that he got sent into the crowd and busted his nose in the year they were going to win a championship. It's not Steve Nash's fault that Amare got injured in 2006. It's not Steve Nash's fault that Robert Sarver was cheap and didn't keep Joe Johnson for basically just because he wanted to not go into luxury tax. It's not Steve Nash's fault that Amare Stoudemire and Boris Diaw? But a few of them jumped off the bench to get involved into an altercation and got suspended. It was not basketball reasons why Steve Nash didn't win a ring, by the way. Like, it was a calamity of errors and an ultra cheap organization in a Western Conference with Kobe's Lakers, the Dynasty Spurs team, and they were a team who were consistently there with them, with Steve Nash as their offensive hub. There's only ever been one Steph Curry, and I don't think Caitlin Clark's going to be Steph Curry. I think if you have a player like Caitlin Clark, history has shown, if you have a ball-dominant player, history has shown, give them the fucking ball. Genuinely. Whether it be LeBron, whether it be Luka in wherever he's been. Whether it be Mike James in EuroLeague, whether it be Shane Larkin, Luka for Real Madrid, James Harden, heck, even freaking Russ in those non-KD years. If you have a ball dominant player who's an elite ball dominant player and frees up other players in your team, you give them the fucking ball and you let them do what they can with it. Especially if those players don't excel at moving off the ball. Like, nobody's turning James. And again, James Harden doesn't have a ring because he came up in his prime. He came up against a Warriors team who added Kevin Durant. Like, it's as simple as that. And then it took a CP3 injury as well. And I understand injuries don't happen. Like, injuries happen. But if injuries are the reason someone didn't win a title, like their whole team basically or the next best player getting injured, it's like blaming Jaylen Brown on losing to the fucking Knicks when Tatum got injured. Like, when a player gets injured, you can't say, oh, this other player could never win. But it's like, well, they were about to win, someone got injured. Like, we can always look at outcomes and not look at the process. Like, the whole mentality towards, if CP3 doesn't get injured, the mentality towards Harden, Luka, Caitlin, Trae Young completely changes. It just completely does. And I understand Stephen Curry. Jokic is Jokic. But it's like, people are like, oh, heliocentric players don't win. But it's like, man, how many times have heliocentric players taken what are almost incompetent franchises, whether it be the Suns being cheap, whether it be the Rockets with the weirdest shit ever, not playing centers, whether it be the Mavs, who honestly, like, Derek Lively was their third best player. They weren't that good, and being way better than they would be without them. Like, that's what the Fever can do. And I'm telling you, you don't even need to be a player like she's a Steve Nash. She's a Steve Nash in the half court while being this age is Magic Johnson the full court. Play her to her advantage. Get players that work to her advantage. If you try to play her in a system that doesn't work for her, with players that don't fit in that system as well, it is not going to work. I'm telling you this for a fact. If the Fever come out in a motion offense, they are the 5th seed next year. It does not matter who they play. If they keep Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull, Natasha Howard, and Aaliyah Boston, if that is their starting 5 next year, which is very well could be, and they try to play a motion offense, they will not be higher than the 5th seed. I will tell you that for a fact.